Okay, it is 6:01. I'm going to call to order the regular meeting with closed session for Thursday, May 16th, 2019. Let's have roll call.
Mrs. Maiorino Scheiblein. Mr. Fleck.
Here.
Mr. Troy.
Here.
Mrs. Melendi. Mr. Guerin.
Here.
Mr. Quagliano. Mr. Gentry.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum, so we can continue. I will make a motion at 6:02 to go into closed session for the items listed in the agenda. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Melendi. Let's have a roll call.
Mrs. Melendi. Mrs. Maiorino. Mr. Guerin. Mr. Fleck.
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano. Mr. Gentry.
Yes.
Mr. Troy.
Yes. Okay, we are in closed session. Okay. If Apple says so. All right. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We have suspended closed session, so we'll be resuming closed session after the regular meeting. Let's have a roll call.
Mrs. Maiorino.
Here.
Mr. Fleck.
Here.
Mr. Troy.
Here.
Mrs. Melendi.
Here.
Mr. Guerin.
Here.
Mr. Quagliano.
Here.
Mr. Gentry.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. We're going to take action on closed session after the next session of that. So let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Hoyle.
All right, we'll have these folks introduce themselves, so say your name and your grade, okay? And then we'll start. Go ahead.
Landon second. Anna E second. Maya second. Brianna second.
Feel free to come on up and take pictures. Yeah, all the way up.
Okay.
Happen else, we can't.
Just sit here. All you have is the microphone. The green light's on. All you have to do is we'll have an opportunity for more pictures after this part. Okay. Well, thanks to all of you for leading us in the pledge. I want to see who we have here. Which one's Maya? Okay, hi Maya. And Anahi? Okay. Brianna. All right. And Landon. You're kind of hidden behind that monitor there, but you're there. I see ya. Okay, I'm going to read who nominated you to lead us in the pledge tonight and some things that they said. Okay, so let's start with Maya. It was nominated by Mr. Bell, your PE teacher. Maya is a wonderful student and person. She is very athletic, in my opinion, one of the top athletes in our school. Even though she can outcompete most others in sports, academics, or just being a nice person, she will never brag about herself and is always willing to help others. Plain and simple, she just makes life at school better for the people she is around. Thank you. Okay, and this is for Anahi, nominated by, I hope I get this right, Miss Wondriska? Okay. She is kind, always willing to help without having to ask her, a good role model to her peers, has a sense of humor, and will let you know if she doesn't agree or understand something. Very good, thank you. Brianna, over there. You were nominated by Miss Villalba?
Vialva.
Okay, Villalba. Brianna is so sweet and always does her best work. She sets a great example in class and works well with everyone in the class. She totally deserves to be recognized for being an amazing little girl. That's so sweet. Okay, and there's Landon. You were nominated by Miss Sheridan. Landon is very kind, respectful, responsible, and always helping others. Landon has a great smile and a leader in our classroom. All right. Thanks, Landon. Okay. We're going to sneak up behind you and take some pictures, okay? Landon, you might need to move because otherwise it'll be a picture of a monitor. So you could just sneak over to the side, I think.
You're welcome to come up as close as you would like.
So we could be closer.
Perfect.
Why don't you put it
Yeah,
on your
you can
knees?
sit on your knees if you want.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Still taller,
You
so
need
let's
to
sit on your knees.
sit on a chair on your
Nope.
knees.
Sometimes I do. You do. You take it home.
Okay. All right, parents. Come to parents. Take as many as you'd like. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. Great job. Hey, you guys have a wonderful summer. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the academic spotlight, and that is Ms. Lombard for some student recognition.
And actually, I'm going to call Mr. Beelin on up. And we have 2 student groups as well as 1 staff member at the high school that we would like to recognize this afternoon.
Green light. First off, good evening. Each year since 2013, the State High School Press Association, which is known as the Illinois Journalism Education Association, has honored one outstanding high school media educator with the Tidwell Award. This is an educator who has done exemplary work during this year and the previous year. Dennis Brown was nominated and is the 2019 recipient of this award. Dennis has served as the moderator of The Voice for 22 years, which he has won numerous awards. And if you go into his classroom, there's not enough wall space to put another plaque up. His work and dedication to students and the lessons they learn while reporting events at Huntley High School is absolutely second to none. Additionally, Mr. Brown, come on up. Come on up. That's just one award. Additionally, last week, I received a phone call from the American Lawyers Alliance, and Dennis Brown has also been named Teacher of the Year. Only 3 teachers across the nation are recognized each year for this award. The purpose of this award is to recognize an educator that has furthered the understanding of the role of the courts, law enforcement agencies, and the legal profession. Someone who has also helped students recognize their responsibilities as well as their rights, encouraged effective law-related education programs within the school and the community, and also increased communication among students, educators, and those involved professionally in the legal system. Mr. Brown teaches our criminal law classes, which students have an awesome opportunity to be able to learn a lot from. I've actually sat in those classes and find it very hard to leave in the middle of conversation just because students are so deeply engaged in the criminal system. And so I stand before you today to give a huge congratulations and recognition to Mr. Brown for all of the work that he has done. So congratulations. he also has brought a team from our journalism team who, sorry, long day. And they have a very large piece of hardware that I'm going to have Mr. Brown talk about. And
Okay, hi guys. So for the last 15 years, I've had the pleasure to stop by here every May and introduce you some of our students who've accomplished great things, members of the Voice and the Harmony Yearbook staffs. This year has been an exceptional year with many students winning both state and national accolades. So I'm here with Ms. Lauren Teeter, the Harmony Yearbook Advisor, to present some of our students and some of the awards they have won this year. First, Emma Kabelka, come on up. So Emma has served as the editor-in-chief of the Voice staff this year and was instrumental in developing the look and direction of our magazine. She has with her an award that the Voice staff picked up on a trip to Columbia University in New York back in March, the Silver Crown, presented by the Columbia Scholastic Press Association. Each year, the CSPA awards silver and gold crowns to some of the best publications in the country. This year, The Voice and HuntleyVoice.com won their third consecutive Silver Crown in the hybrid magazine website category, one of 15 publications throughout the country that win a Crown Award in this category. Emma was very much a part of our winning this award, and she served both as a staff writer and editor for 3 years on the Voice staff. She's one of our best, and she will be missed. So, Second, Riley Murphy, come on up. Riley is a junior on the Voice staff, our arts and entertainment editor, and also one of the best members of our staff. As a freshman, when she was first interviewed for a staff position, my editor-in-chief at the time, Courtney Thomas, looked me in the eye and said, "Put this girl on the editorial board. She will be running the staff someday." Courtney could not have been more right. Throughout this year, Riley has proved to be a successful writer and an enthusiastic and respected leader and editor. Kids in the class listen to her because she's passionate and a hard worker. When our photo editor moved to another state in December, Riley took on many of her responsibilities, training the photographers again in January and critiquing and organizing their work month to month. In addition, she shot photos as well as when she was needed. For next year, Riley will serve as the editor-in-chief, along with Ashley Riley of The Voice. And when it came time for us to nominate someone for the IJEA All-State team, Lauren and I agreed that Riley would be Huntley's nominee, and I'm proud to say she was chosen to be a part of that All-State team, Huntley's 9th member in as many years.
More stuff. At this year's IHSA sectional, Huntley once again competed against some of the better journalism programs in the area. There, with members from the Voice staff, the Harmony Yearbook staff, the Raider Nation News staff, the team was able to win its 9th sectional championship in the last 14 years. One of the members of that team who did exceptionally well is Faith Los Bañez, who placed first in newspaper design. Faith served as the print editor of The Voice this year and has been a member of the newspaper staff for 3 years. So, this is our trophy. At the state finals, you never know what's going to happen. There have been years where we've had a large team and come away with nothing, and there's other years that we've gone in with only a few and done really well. This year's team was composed of only 7 competitors, and typically a team needs at least 5 of them to place in order to be in the running for the trophy. We're proud to say that of those 7 competitors, 5 of them placed at state, winning Huntley its 3rd, second place finish, and its 5th IHSA state finals trophy in 14 years. Those who placed at state, I'm going to come up when I call you, Riley Murphy, 5th place in headline writing. Faith Los Bañez, 3rd place in newspaper design. Ashley Riley, 3rd place in yearbook caption writing. Braden Turk, 2nd place in review writing. And last but not least, Nick Pratt, who competed for us in yearbook layout and design. I'm going to say a couple things about Nick, and you can bring the trophy up, yes. Nick is a club member, which makes this win for him especially unique. Typically, students that compete on our journalism team come from our publications classes. However, Nick had been attending club meetings regularly and was eager to step up this year. And step up he did. Nick took home design books to study, met with me to discuss techniques, learned a program that was entirely new to him, created multiple practice spreads, accepted my critique with poise, and knocked it out of the park. The award ceremony at the state finals can be pretty dramatic, if you can believe that. Toward the end of that ceremony, Huntley stood somewhere in the top 5 with only 2 events left. Normally, Mr. Brown keeps a tally, but he didn't bring a sheet this year, and so I was on the edge of my seat. I'm like, are we going to win? I don't know. So they got to the yearbook category, and they began announcing the winners, starting with 6th place and going up. When it was finished, Nick Pratt was announced as the 1st place winner, making him the 9th journalism state champion in the school's history and securing the 2nd place finish for our team. It should also be noted that he is the first Huntley High School student to earn 1st place in yearbook layout and design. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is the Illinois Women's Press Association. So this press association holds a competition each year for all public and private Illinois schools with honors, which honors and celebrates all student journalists and their school's communications programs. The 1st place winners at the state level are automatically entered to compete at the national level through the National Federation of Press Women. Our current Harmony yearbook editor-in-chief, Junior Kayla Yakimiski, earned 3rd place in the nation in the yearbook copywriting category. This is only one of the many awards that Kayla has won this past year, but we're taking this moment to truly recognize this and celebrate because it's pretty incredible to be honored at such a high level. I'm so incredibly proud of her and excited to see what next year has in store because she was actually just named the editor-in-chief of next year's staff as well. And actually, it's worth mentioning, Mr. Troy, that you're here and your family, that Katrina Troy, class of 2018, earned 3rd place in the nation for yearbook layout, but she's busy at college until this weekend. So, yeah. Oh, hello, Katrina. That's great. So wonderful. As always, none of these achievements could happen without the support of our administration, especially Mr. Marcus Beelan, our principal, Dr. Scott Rowe, our superintendent, and all of you, the members of the Board of Education. So again, thank you for giving us and these students the opportunity to achieve at the highest level. None of this could happen without all of you, so thank you.
I didn't do anything. Somebody else was having with me. I don't know. You want to FaceTime Katrina and you too?
Thank you all. Okay, thanks. You know, it's really cool that that's become an annual tradition because Mr. Brown has done such a great job, and it's even cooler when you read an article, say in the Washington Post, and it's written by a Huntley High School grad. These are the sorts of things that are resulting from this incredible program. So, my hat's off to them. Okay, I think we have some public comment here. Let's start with. I'm sorry, is it Kriegler? Mr. Ken Kriegler. Yes, make sure the green light's on. Our policy is that, yep.
Okay, sorry. Good evening, school board members. My name's Ken Kriegler. My son's finishing his junior year at Huntley, and my daughter just graduated from Huntley 2 years ago. Some of you probably know me from the community. I'm the treasurer of the Huntley High School Athletic Boosters for the past 3 years, been very involved. I'm here tonight to ask for your help. In April, Huntley High School participated in the FBLA Future Business Leaders of America state competition in Springfield. We had 18 students participating in the event. The state competition had over 1,400 participants representing Illinois high schools. The outcome of the state competition was a huge success. Huntley had 4 students that won the following awards. My son Zach and Mateo Hernandez won second place finish for sports and entertainment marketing and impromptu case study. Gillian Savala, third place finish journalism test, and Sydney Plante, fourth place finish sales project. Based on these achievements that the kids did at the state competition, they were invited to participate in the FBLA National Conference, which is being held in San Antonio, Texas on the 26th of June through July 2nd. The event's going to feature over 10,000 students representing 50 states plus Puerto Rico. When we met with Miss Barty's, and I'm probably not going to say the right name, Miss S, I'll call her, because it's a little hard to pronounce, on May 2nd, an outline of the event in San Antonio along with the estimated costs were presented to the parents of the students. During the meeting, the parental meeting, the subject of costs were discussed with the group. I'm here to represent the team or the kids that were invited to go. The teachers mentioned that the trip will need to be 100% funded by the parents if they would like their children to participate. The estimated cost is $1,500 per student, which includes flight, hotel, and conference registration. The students will be chaperoned by one of the teacher sponsors, and the cost of the teacher's trip will be funded by the amount in the FBLA fundraising account. They did an excellent job fundraising this year by working the Huntley High School concession booth during some of the smaller concession events, such as volleyball and some smaller events. Myself, along with Jeff Jenkins, our current president, we did offer to let them help fundraise, and we were able to support them through some of the concession sales for the smaller athletic venues. It gave the kids an excellent hands-on opportunity to get them what it takes to run a business, meaning sales, product ordering, cash management, staffing, and customer service. The events were always supervised by either Miss Barty or Miss S. Unfortunately, the balance in the account's not sufficient to subsidize a portion of the trip. During the parental meeting that took place on May 2nd, the teachers mentioned that the club was operating in the red or at a deficit position when they took over responsibility. As a parent, I'm not privy to the funds in the account, nor am I privy to previous management of the fundraising account. All I'm just asking is for some help. In high school, some students play sports, some participate in school clubs. Whatever the path the students choose, we ask them to be involved. Make a difference, stand out, and make good choices. High school empowers kids to define what they will do in the future. The 4 kids mentioned above have been provided an opportunity that will shape their future. It'll be extremely disappointing for myself and for the other parents to have the cost of the trip could prohibit students' attendance. I asked the school board, along with Huntley High School administrators, to rethink the allocation of club activities and budget in the future. I personally would welcome the opportunity to work with any school administrators I'm very involved with the boosters organization and the board, participating in some sort of whiteboard or panel or roundtable or whatever we could think through, just as it relates to all funding of all activities, including sports and clubs throughout the community. Myself, representing all the parents, are asking if Huntley High School could help offset some of the cost of this prestigious opportunity for the 4 students that will represent Huntley High School at the National Conference in San Antonio. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Also, we have, somebody had shown up earlier for public comment and shared their thoughts with Dr. Rowe, so I'm going to have Dr. Rowe speak a little bit.
All right, so I was able to sit with Sandy Wright, who's one of our substitutes, and the message that she would like to convey to the board is a request that our current sub pay is $95 a day. After subbing in the school district for 40 days over the course of the school year, that daily rate bumps to $110. Our current practice requires subs to sub 40 days annually to raise their rate to the $40 per day rate. She's advocating that we reconsider that as an incentive to keep subs and to attract new subs and mirror what a neighboring school district of ours uses, which is 40 days of accumulation bumps to 110 for the duration of your time as a sub, not annually one round of 40 days, and then annually you're eligible for the higher rate by being a dedicated sub to the district. So I told her I would convey that message to the board.
And I just want to iterate that because there's been some questions on social media, public comment is for just that. It's public comment. We don't, as a board, don't engage in any debate or raise the issues that aren't on the agenda. So we do appreciate the public comment. We do listen to it, but we won't be taking any action on any of these issues at that time. Okay? All right. Is there any other public comment?
No, Mr. President.
Okay. See, I asked anyway. Then it's time for revision and adoption of the agenda. All right. So let's kind of go through here. Looks like Ms. Lombard, you do have something? Okay. Dr. Schlichter? Okay. Mr. Altmaier? Okay. Mr. Zaire? Dr. Budzinski? Okay. Looks like we do have something under communications and community engagement. I'll leave that on there. Legislative committee. Do you have anything that we can report? Okay, we'll keep that on there. I don't have anything on the president's report. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, skipped over superintendent's report. Sorry. 16 is not on, and then we go into consent agenda. All right. So I would like to make a motion to revise and adopt the agenda with the removal of items 9, 10, 11, 12, and 16. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Melendi. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. So, I'm sorry, I lost my place here. Let's turn it over to Ms. Lombard for Huntley Consolidated School District 158 final calendar.
Sure. Just at the end of the year, after May 1st, school districts are required to go ahead and submit to the state our final calendar, assuming that there are no additional emergency days. But so this is the updated. We used 4 of those, and May 30th is, and so this is the report that was uploaded in to IWAS and approved by the state board. So.
Okay, and we've already approved this, so there's no action to be taken. Any questions on that? All right. And skipping down to 13. I'll give that to Ms. Melendi as the chair.
13.1, Freedom of Information Act. It's attached there. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Armstrong? No?
I do not.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, any questions on that? All right, then thanks for the report. Okay, item 14, Legislative Committee.
So I just want to quickly update the board on the Mark Altmaier PTEL bill that's going through the General Assembly right now. It has stalled. It's through the Senate. It has stalled and will not be passing through the House at this time. They have ceased to pass most bills while they're working on their bigger picture things. So our hope is that we can bring it back during veto session. If not, we'll hit it again next session. So we'll continue to work on that. And I believe Mr. Altmaier has been working with CPS and some other advocates. So
yeah, I think the overall process was very good in that there is support across the board, right? There is top leadership support in the House with Mr. Harris. There's top leadership support. Even the head of the committee liked the bill, but unfortunately, I think it was just the Dem leadership refused to call any Republican bills, correct me if I'm wrong, as part of that revenue. Is it a revenue committee? I think it is the revenue committee,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, it didn't get called. And without it being called, it's going to either have to be revived at veto session, or we're going to have to go through the process again next year. But the good news, and I do take away some optimism in that, it did pass the Senate 55-0. There is huge support down there with a lot of different people that we've talked to. CPS initially, they were not in favor of the bill. And last minute, I ended up spending about an hour on the phone with the CFO of CPS and explained the bill to her. And I said, you haven't seen the amended bill, have you? And she goes, there's an amendment? So that's a problem. So we sent her the amendment. They reviewed the bill. After they reviewed the bill, they are 100% on board, and they are telling their legislators, we have to get this passed because this is a good bill. So we do have a lot of support. So we're hoping that the veto session and or the next General Assembly, we will get this done. So.
Right. This bill is not only good for school districts, but all taxing bodies. So I think it's just a matter of educating the legislators on the benefits, because this benefits every single legislator in the state. So we'll continue to work on that. But done for now.
And thank you for your work on it.
Thank you for your work on that.
Okay. Thanks for the legislative update. All right. Item 15, Dr. Rowe.
All right. Well, I am very pleased to formally announce some very good news for Huntley School District 158. We have, for the first time, formally been named to the U.S. News and World Report Best High Schools in America list. Earning a spot on this list has evaded our high school mysteriously for a very long time, but we're ecstatic with this news. Earning a spot on this list, just to give you a frame of reference as to what justifies placement, is college readiness based on proportions of 12th grade students who took and passed advanced placement or IB exams, college curriculum breadth based on proportions of 12th grade students who took and passed AP or IB exams in multiple content areas, math and reading proficiency based on student performance on state required tests, math and reading performance based on whether performance state assessments exceeded expectations given the proportion of underserved students, underserved student performance based on how Black, Hispanic, and low-income students performed on state assessments compared to those who are not underserved, and graduation rates based on the proportion of students who entered 9th grade in 2012, 2013, and 4 years later. Now, after that mouthful, we've known for quite a while that Huntley High School is a special place, and I'm really pleased that building and the staff are finally being recognized for the great work taking place. So on behalf of the district, I'd like to congratulate the teachers, administration, students, and their families for their contributions to our great school district. This is one of those accolades that does not live just in the high school. Without the foundation of a strong pre-K through 12 recognition, this would certainly not be possible. So this is a celebration that we can celebrate all the way from the ECC in McCaven through Huntley High School. Congratulations.
Excellent news. Now the nation knows what we've known for a long time. So, Okay, next item is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that need to be pulled off of the consent agenda? Okay, there being silence, then I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gentry, I believe. Okay, let's have a roll call.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Okay,
You get it
that motion carries. Moving on to, this mouse is not working well. Since there are no items removed from the consent agenda, we go on to the action items. So let's start with 19.1, supplemental purchase orders, supplemental accounts payable. Mr. Altmeyer, is there anything we need to know about these?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Any questions or comments on these? Okay, then I will make a motion to approve supplemental purchase orders and supplemental accounts payable as presented.
Second.
Second from Mr. Quagliano. Let's have a roll call.
Mrs. Maiorino? Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. 19.2, fiscal year 20 budget.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add.
No,
okay.
I'm just kidding. You know I can't do that.
We're gonna move
Do you
right
want me to
on.
do that?
Told me 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You're
Start
on the clock, Mr. Rowe.
I want to
You
hear
gotta
the
do
buzzer
this
three
before the
times.
veto session down in Springfield.
Okay. That's very funny.
Fire away.
Okay, fire away. Because this is only the second draft, and we have still numerous changes coming with the budget. I'm going to try to keep this at a very high level. As I go through this, you'll see we didn't make a ton of changes from the very first draft of the FY20 budget, which was presented at the February 21st board meeting. But I do want to bring the board up to speed on the big picture revenue and expenditure assumptions, just so that we have kind of a clear picture going into, well, when I talk about the 5-year plan, using the worst case yet possible scenario assumptions. So I'll go through the budget first, and then we'll touch upon what the 5-year plan looks like under that scenario, under the worst case plan. Revenue assumptions. CPI is locked and loaded at 2.1% with new construction at $6 million for the 2018 levy. That's a number that's good to go. We have CPI at 1.9% for the 2019 levy. New construction is estimated at $10 million for next year's levy. That's the 2019 levy. And state funding continues to reflect the new evidence-based funding model with an estimated $675,000 increase. So that's for the FY20 budget. The major expenditure assumptions, knowing that salaries and benefits approximate 76% of the overall budget. Again, salaries continue to reflect the collective bargaining agreements, and we extend the current increase in pay for those not under contract for FY20. That would be the HESPA union. And based on the experience of the health insurance plan, we are budgeting currently the health insurance plan for FY20 to increase at 5%. As a result of that, as a result of these following changes, we are currently looking at an operating surplus of $142,000. The material changes are noted as follows. Energy costs were reduced to $100,000 in anticipation of solar and other energy initiatives. We think we can hit that number. Technology equipment was reduced by $300,000. That was based on the current needs we have, but also, year over year, we do have an opportunity whereby we are pre-purchasing some of our laptops and Chromebooks for the following year. That additional cushion gave us the ability to add the line item for additional resource officers on the Square Barn and Reed Road campuses, as that was not in the first draft of the budget. Those are really the material changes that result in the current operating surplus of approximately $142,000. So for FY20, we're in pretty good shape still. Looking forward with a balanced budget. It does include $450,000 of new additional salaries, as discussed and approved by the board with the Tier 1 hires. So the FY20 budget continues to look very good. Now, when we look at the 5-year plan within your memorandum and document, you will have the 5-year plan that includes the FY19 budget all the way through FY23. Okay? Now, under the worst case scenario assumptions, the material assumptions that we put in there that are driving those worst case decisions, we have CPI going down to 1.5%. So that's not a lot, right? I mean, currently we're sitting at 2.1% and 1.9%. I could have put a 1% CPI in there. I could have held property taxes completely flat if there's a property tax freeze, but I didn't. I just put 1.5%. And I think you'll see that even at 1.5%, there is a significant difference between the first scenario that we did, which is best case, right, most approximating today's economy, and that's the best guess estimate of what we think it'll be. There's a big difference just putting 1.5% in there. The next assumptions that we changed, we left salaries pretty much flat. In other words, based on the current contracts that we have today, we continued to run those out. We did not add anything on the salary line item, but we did increase the health insurance from a 5% annual increase to a 10% annual increase. And increasing health insurance by 10% compounds pretty quickly. Again, if you look at the chart for the scenario, you will see. So just simply those assumption changes from CPI dropping down to 1.5%. I didn't touch state funding because the assumption is the state may cut state funding, but with the new evidence-based formula, knowing we're Tier 1, Tier 2, I didn't want to do that. If I did do that, the impact would be about $500,000 a year on the bottom line, and you'll be able to see that pretty easily. So looking at the snapshot summary, the chart that outlines that scenario, in fiscal years 21 through 23, we have operating deficits ranging from $3.4 million all the way up to $4.5 million in FY23. Now, if you were to compare that to what I presented at the February 21st meeting under most approximating today's economy, FY21 went from a $2.2 million deficit to a $3.4 million deficit. FY22 went from a $1.5 million deficit to a $4 million deficit. And the biggest jump was fiscal year 23 went from a $605,000 deficit to a $4.4 million deficit. So you can see just some simple changes in CPI, new construction, as well as the compounding effect of health insurance increasing at 10% makes a huge dent, unfortunately, in what we have to be ready for. Am I overly concerned? No, because again, this 5-year plan is really the all needs in of the district. We do have opportunities to shift capital expenditures down the line. This 5-year plan does not reflect attrition, reduction with reduction in enrollment. This plan does not reflect at this point in time reduction in salary expense, reduction in headcount. We as a cabinet and administrative team are looking at that currently. Knowing that with decreased enrollment in the out years, there will be opportunity for attrition, there will be opportunity for headcount reduction. There will have to be, based on some of these numbers you're seeing, but certainly it gives the board an indication as to what could happen under those scenarios. So I'd like to answer any questions if you do have them, but again, this is just a scenario. There's so many other assumptions that we could have made, but these are the assumptions that I did make. And or questions on the FY20 second draft of the budget.
I just have a quick clarification. Did you say these numbers are in the event that we have the freeze? Are you taking that into account, or is it just the first?
So this does, this does not. This reflects a 1.5% CPI.
Oh, okay.
Right, so we will, so this reflects that. It does not reflect, what I said was I could have reflected a property tax freeze. If I would have reflected a property tax freeze, these numbers would have been more like in the $7 million deficit range by fiscal year 23.
I missed that part. Okay, thank you.
But I opted not to go there because I'm hoping our legislators know that that's not a good idea. Clearly not a good idea. For schools. Especially under the evidence-based formula, any Tier 1 or Tier 2 school should not have a property tax freeze. Clearly, in my opinion.
Any questions? Comments? Okay. I want to make sure that everybody's good to go, so. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that.
Time,
That's,
was it good? Did I make it?
9 minutes, 57 seconds. No, kidding. All right. Thank you. Let's see, 19.3, we have the HART resolution that was presented the last meeting. Dr. Rowe.
Nothing to add other than the Village of Huntley has formally approved theirs. Huntley Fire has formally approved theirs. Turn my microphone on. Nothing to add other than the Village of Huntley has formally adopted the resolution, as has Huntley Fire. Huntley Parks, I believe, was last night or is next week, and everything is. And the Chamber of Commerce will approve. We'll vote on this tomorrow.
Library or? Okay. All right, very good. So this is up for our approval of this resolution. It was presented at the Committee of the Whole. Any questions or comments on this? All right. Then I will make a motion for the approval of the HART resolution as presented. Second from Ms. Melendi. Any further discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call.
Mrs. Melendi? Yes. Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino? Yes. Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Passes unanimously. On to curriculum and instruction. We did not have a quorum for the Committee of the Whole, so let's go through that. I will turn it over to Mr. Guerin.
Thank you. 19.4.1, the high school CTE review. Dr. Schlichter?
Thank you. So at the Committee of the Whole, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Weedoff presented about the high school CTE review, and that is submitted for approval as presented tonight. So you have the attachment, and we'll take any questions.
Any questions?
I don't believe I've seen the attachment.
There's no attachment on this packet, but it was in the last.
Okay.
Refresh. Ooh.
It disappeared briefly earlier
Oh,
this
look at
evening,
that.
and then it reappeared. So the joys of
That is
technology.
very
yes.
cool. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Then I will make a motion to approve the CTE review as presented in the packet. Second from Ms. Melendi. Okay. Any further discussion? This doesn't require a roll call, does it? Because it's not spending money on it. Okay. Well, then let's do a roll call. When in doubt, do a roll call.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
I will have to abstain for no other reason than I've not seen it.
Okay.
I was absent last meeting.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Okay. That motion carries. Back to you, Mr. Guerin.
Thank you. 19.4.2, the middle school exploratory review. Dr. Schlichter?
Thank you. And again, Mr. Johnson presented our middle school exploratory review results and recommendations at the Committee of the Whole. And the attachment is in the packet, and we'll take any questions.
Any questions? No?
Good. Okay. That's up for approval, so I will make a motion to approve the middle school exploratory program and review as presented.
Second?
Second from Mr. Guerin. Let's do a roll call.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino? Yes. Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Back to you.
19.4.3, the Otis contract. Dr. Schlichter?
Yes, so at the Committee of the Whole, Dr. McCrindle and I presented the recommended contract for an integrated data warehouse system. Will replace SchoolNet, and the system is called Otis. So the contract is attached and presented for approval, so we will take any questions.
Just a quick question on that, probably similar to, you might be able to guess it, around data ownership. Because there is that kind of, so I guess not sternly worded, it's too strong, but there's a language around there about retention of the system and data and that type of thing. So if you could give your thoughts on that.
Sure, absolutely. I'll start and then I'll let Dr. Budzinski jump in. But we actually vetted the contract and revised it several times, so very, very specific language around that.
Mhm.
It's a cloud-based system, but we retain ownership of all our data.
Okay.
Yeah, specifically, there were a few things in the contract that we requested that be removed, and it was things more along the lines of giving Otis access to freely and openly share de-aggregated data or anonymized data about our district and things we're doing. We weren't terribly comfortable with that at all. Even in an aggregate form or anonymized data, it could still be drawn back to our district.
Sure.
So we requested that all of that be taken out. Those statements have all been changed to, they basically can't share anything without our prior consent.
Okay.
So we, in writing, so we have to approve anything that they would want to share out to anybody else that would be considered our content.
Mhm.
So those were the big key factors that we had carved out of that contract that would have been in their standard form.
Okay. And then the data ownership, I guess, how is that addressed? 'Cause
It's in there. The data is ours. It gets a little bit. They're just storing it, and basically that's what comes through in the contract is they're just storing our data and putting it in a system for us to be able to analyze it compared to other data. They fully recognize that it's still our data.
But I mean, just logistically, we're basically taking it from a place we have it, giving it to them, or is it?
We take it from a place where it exists. I don't know that I would say that we have it because it's in other cloud-based systems already.
Okay.
And we just routed a copy of it to them, basically.
Okay.
It's not by any means the sole copy of any of this data. This data exists. Use map data as an example, or ACT, SCT data as an example. That data actually lives in its primary form with those services.
Gotcha.
We take a copy of it and route it to Otis.
So this is kind of think of it as like an aggregator of
Yep.
data that
it is
exists
truly,
today.
Yeah, it is a data warehouse that
Right. I
just
gotcha.
stores copies of our stuff.
Gotcha.
Specifically in paragraph 13 of the contract, it says you retain all ownership rights in the user content you submit to Otis. And there's some other language, but yeah, it's
Yeah. The part that was concerning was the language where it said they own the system and the data.
Mhm.
The way that was worded seemed very open-ended, but your answer makes sense.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? None?
All right. I will make a motion to approve the Otis contract as presented.
Second.
Second from Mr. Guerin. Let's have a roll call.
Mrs. Maiorino? Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Okay, that motion carries. I learned a new phrase that I'm going to use this week, anonymized data. I don't know where to put that in the sentence, but I will.
And can you spell it?
Yes, I'll ask my son about it.
There you go.
Okay.
Last one, 19.4.4, international travel. Where's Mr. Aney going? Dr. Schlichter.
And last, we had discussion at the Committee of the Whole regarding the trip to Peru for next year. And so they just want to get planning on that, and it's in our long-term travel plan. Great opportunity for kids. So you have the attachment, and we'll take any questions.
Just a statement, man. Dang, I really like this trip.
Yeah. We all tried to chaperone it. Mr. Aney like shut us down immediately, so we'll do our own trip. Yeah, board retreat along with them.
That's
Okay.
a really good idea. Any questions? All right.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve the Peru trip as presented. Second from Ms. Melendi. Let's see, roll call.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Okay, that motion carries. And then we're on to Ms. Lombard, Safe School Resolution, Intergovernmental Agreement.
Sure, this is an annual item. Again, we have an intergovernmental agreement with the McHenry County Regional Office of Education to be able to utilize the Regional Safe Schools program. And so this there's a resolution in the packet just asking that we continue from July 1 through June 30th, 2020. Wow. And they don't foresee the cost going up. If it does, it may go up just a little bit, but it's a combination from school districts as well as the state in grants and a variety of things. And so we are recommending the approval of this resolution.
And we do this every year? Yes. Okay. Questions, comments? All right. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution regarding safe schools for the 2019-2020 school year.
Second.
I think I heard Mr. Guerin with that one. Second. Let's have a roll call.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Scheiblein? Mr. Guerin? Mr. Fleck?
Yes. Okay. We're going to have you go through all sorts of name iterations. So that motion carries.
Question. Did we need to approve the budget draft?
I'm sorry.
I don't think we did.
Did we not do that?
No, I don't think we did.
I was so hooked on Mr. Altmeyer speaking in under 10 minutes, I forgot to do that. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for that. So, point of order. I'm sorry, what number is that? 19.2. Going back to 19.2, I will make a motion to approve the budget draft number 2 as presented.
Second.
Second from Mr. Troy. Okay. Let's have a roll call.
Mrs. Maiorino? Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Okay, Mr. Armstrong, is there any public comment?
No.
Okay. It sounds like a bit on a sitcom or something. Okay, then at 7:59, I will make a motion to go back into closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Quagliano. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are back in closed session.
Before we head into closed session, so welcome to Logan. Juan, sorry, our new elementary special education director.
Hey.